So thank you everybody for joining us on this Marketing Optimist Sandwich course. Today we're speaking to Sarah Agar-Brennan, who I have known for, gosh, it must be 5 years now. I'm not going to introduce Sarah myself. She's going to do it herself. So I guess I want to pass it over to Sarah. Sarah, you just want to tell everyone a little bit about yourself, about who you are and your history and everything. So yeah.
Yeah. I'm Sarah, and I run a company called the Maple Agency, and we help businesses to grow. It's an agency full of excitable entrepreneurs who want to help you develop and work with you in your business to hit the goals that you have in mind, not necessarily growth goals. It can be other things. We work with lots of different companies for different reasons. People have sustainability goals. My background is how I got here was I started my first business when I was 20. I was straight out of university, and I was just full of ideas and full of the desire and need to want to get going. And my business, my very first business, was within 6 months fell on its face and was just about to go bust when I actually did a pivot. And that's how I met Taz, actually, in my pivot all those years ago. And I started selling sci-fi. I went from home cinema concept, and it didn't work. And I ended up very quickly picking myself up and redirecting the business and turning it around completely. And I ended up in movie memorabilia as it started, which was what was littering my shop, was decorating my shop, lots of wonderful Star Wars replica toy, all sorts of things, and people started buying them and were interested in the actual equipment to watch the movie on. And so, yeah, that was my first taste of what it's like to have something fail and have to pick myself up, and that resilience, and I was addicted. It is an adrenaline. I am adrenaline junkie from that perspective. And from there, I went on to get great success, discovered Beanie Babies, did really well. And then that's how I met Taz, because I ended up in Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh cards and all the things, the wonderful things, Furbies. If it was selling, I was as into it around a theme of toys and collectible toys. And I set up my very first website when websites weren't a thing. And it was called Popcorn Live, and then I set up another one called Popcorn Skate, and they've had phenomenal success, won lots of awards with them. We experienced such huge growth, as Taz will probably say as well. It was just a wonderful and crazy time to be in business. It really was. And then I did other things, as you do. I went into catering. I set up another business. And that's basically, I've been in the startup market, I've startup businesses all my life, but that first one did last for 16 years. And I've done other things along the way, and I've grown businesses and experienced phenomenal growth and success financially and all the other things that go with it. And I've experienced failure, because I think it's an equal measure, is just as important. And my last business didn't work out. It was the one that I was most public with and went on Dragon's Den, but I've made peace with it. Let's not talk about it now. But what I'm saying is I've been through the full realms of all things business. I've cut across a couple of industries and many sectors, spent some time in education. And so as a result, I'm kind of there's a lot of length and breadth to my experience and my knowledge. And what we do at the Maple Agency now is we do have specialisms, but equally we have lots of wonderful people we work with who have specialisms. So I kind of say nothing's off limits, really, because we know somebody who is equally as experienced and good as us, and at which point we can put them in the direction of them. So that's how it works. I don't know if that explains what I do or whether it doesn't.
I think it's a good start. I think what we'll do is we'll delve into that a little bit more. So obviously I first met you when we were both on eSpark. I think you were I think when we first met you, we were like the new kids in school, and you were the sixth formers who just left.
Yeah.
And I remember you coming back to kind of go the big scary thing for us, at least, was the room where you were supposed to pitch. They had like this horrible person there. It felt horrible at the time. We were like, shout if you were late in the room, she'd shout at you and get you to pitch at the front, and it was a bit scary, and everyone was terrified. But then I think you came along to, I don't know if you came along to judge a pitching competition, or you came to kind of tell your story and you judge one. And I think I bombed as far as I remember. I think I went up to give my pitch, and after like 3 seconds went, oh, I can't do this. And I stopped and then went back, and then that, which is worse than just keeping going, because they went, well, you can come back again and finish it off. And at the time I thought I was really good at pitching, and I died on my arse that day. But I remember coming to you. You were there, and I think we had a chat after. And I think you probably even said to me, "Look, if I'd gone off anything to do with your pitch, we wouldn't have been chatting at this point." But actually, we had a chat later. You went, "Actually, no, you're yeah, it's quite interesting." So we did start doing a little bit of work together. So I'm interested in seeing. Obviously, before you came to eSpark, you'd been running businesses before that. So what did eSpark add to you, if anything, or did it completely unravel everything?
Do you know what? eSpark was probably one of the best things I ever did. It really was. But I was one of those, I was probably a bit like a 3-year-old trying to learn to like be trained, because I was wild from the perspective of I'd never run it. I mean, I'd run businesses, I'd made money. I'd done that all my life, and I have a knack for that. I'm a visionary, so I can see ahead, I can see where we're going. I was really good at predicting trends, and I still am. But I'd say that I'd never quite graduated and I'd never studied business, which didn't help either. But I was a Dell girl prior to eSpark. eSpark kind of helped me become a businesswoman. And that sounds so corny, doesn't it? It really does. But it did. It took me from being this kind of flary, entrepreneurial, full of ideas, excitable, but without any purpose, to this very sensible, more measured version of myself. Did I change? I evolved. I didn't change. I didn't want to change. I wanted to keep the essence of who I was, because I think that's the thing I give to my clients, is that energy, that passion. And I didn't want to change that back then, but they did help me. But I was a bit like you. I just rubbish at pitching for the first 6 months, never even tried it actually. And then kind of recognized I needed it. I needed it for so many reasons. And I learned so much from eSpark. I really did. And like as corny as it sounds, I did feel like by the end of it, I'd graduated to be something more like a business person, and more self-assured, certainly more able to hold my own when it comes to strategies and business planning and looking at growth plans, because I'd never really formally worked on my business. It was, we'll do a bit of that, and we'll do a bit of that, and I always made a lot of money, so it was always a cash flow. That was great. So yeah, it was good for me. It was good. But it was also really, really bad, because there was some demons that really came out in that process. Like, and I mean demons, like self-worth, self-confidence. You were constantly comparing yourself because you were made, because you had to stand at the front and say how much money you'd made that week or what deals you got in. And it just, you were under microscopes. It was really intense, brilliant, but intense.
Yeah, I'd agree, because there were some people. I guess it is like being. I think it is akin to being at school in a positive way, in that you kind of get they'll stand up and do the weekly kind of pitching competition or whatever they're going to do, and they're always kind of that's kind of the business jock, because they go, oh yeah, I got a deal last week with Dell, and I got a deal last week with Coca-Cola, and you're going, Jesus, I've just signed up a chip shop.
The chip shop that you've got, there's a client, mate.
I've still got that chip shop.
Brilliant chip shop.
One of my greatest clients. I love working with them. Actually, it's great. But I think from that there was an element of competitiveness. But I think, as we talked about on the call before we started this, there was also a lot of collaboration. So there were lots of people all around, and you could go to somebody and go, do you know what? I've never done my own tax return. What on earth do I do? And they go, oh, this is how you do it. And within 10 minutes, you'd have a better idea, or they'd show you how to do it, or they'd recommend somebody. So for me, it was probably one of the best things I ever did. Apart from the fact I was there 2.5 years and they gave me free office space for 2.5 years. That was also really, really helpful.
That's a little card, isn't it, really, sadly?
Yeah. And you know what? It hurt when they kind of went, sorry, you can't continue anymore. And I was like, really? What? Really, me? But actually, that was quite good as well, because you do need a point where you have to kind of go, right, I'm on my own now, and we'll make it go. But yeah, just like you, I learned a lot. It was really good. I know it's Tazzy. While you're at the beach, I know you joined eSpark when it was NatWest. What did you get out of that? Is he there?
It's probably paddling.
I'm here. Yeah, it was a great experience. Met some fantastic people, many of which are still friends with today.
And how about from the kind of the business point of view?
Probably did learn quite a bit, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, a bit like Sarah, self-taught with a lot of things. So then you're trying to fit into a different, a normal path of how things should be done, which is I found challenging.
Yeah, I think it's sometimes interesting now when they push you into a not push is the wrong word, I think, but when they move you into what they go, well, this is a proper business structure. I think that for some businesses, the proper business structure just isn't right. I don't know, the kind of the book way of doing it, I think doesn't suit every business. Just like when they taught us how to pitch, I looked at that and went, but that's not right for me.
I think what the hub did, what the eSpark did was it created a safety. And it was like a safety blanket almost became. So it was really difficult actually when you left, because for that first 3 months you floundered around going, who can I trust? Because you could trust everybody in that building. Yeah. And that was so beautiful. And it brought people together, and there was a beautiful collaboration because of that, because you didn't have that fear of, are they going to rip me off? Are they going to pinch my idea? Are they going to copy me? You just knew you were all in there with the same purpose, and it united you.
Yeah.
And I think that was what was so brilliant about it. But here's the thing, now I'm on the other side of it, and I am doing what they did, and I am a business advisor, and I am trying to help people develop and grow their business. You are absolutely right. Some of the things that we did in there just aren't necessarily essential, and actually perhaps not waste time. There's no such thing as wasted time when you're working on your business, but there are better time-saving ways of doing things. Like, unless you really need a comprehensive business plan, then you're going to go for a business model canvas, or you're going to do some strategic planning instead. It's those sorts of things, which I think we had to go through a program, and we were super accountable to the people that were given to us, and yeah, that was good and bad at the same time.
Yeah, I'd agree. So moving on from eSpark, obviously when we met at eSpark, you were doing Love Bomb cushions, and you cajoled me. I was one sure Mr. Love Bomb outside Leeds Town Hall, and I have still got photographs of that, me in a big yellow Mr. Man type outfit waving. God, that was hot.
I'll post it later, folks, don't worry.
Yeah, that was very hot. So obviously with Love Bomb cushions, that morphed, and as you mentioned earlier, you went on Dragon's Den with that. So I don't want to touch any raw nerves or anything, because I know these things don't always go in the right place. But tell us about a little bit about your kind of your thought process for taking it through Dragon's Den. We don't necessarily have to dwell on the show or anything, but then how did that affect things after? How did Dragon's Den affect it after it had been shown, and kind of once the hoo-ha had died down a little bit?
I think what happened with the eSpark, it was all about growth. It was all about looking for that next opportunity. And I think what happened then is perhaps what I hadn't done in the past. I hadn't been so, I hadn't pushed for growth as much. I kind of like meandered along, and when it came along, I evolved and grew my business with that opportunity. And what happened with Dragon's Den was I was looking for growth, because it was instilled into me through the program. I was just out of the program when I took Dragon's Den, and I was looking for that growth. I was looking for the big hits. And whether it's right or wrong, it doesn't really matter, because I look back now and I go, everything's happened for a reason. I can't regret anything I've done. But that said, it wasn't my usual way of running a business. It wasn't my normal way of growing a business. So I looked for a quick hit. That was the reason I went on Dragon's Den. I needed investment, and I wanted to grow my business, and I wanted to grow the range quickly. There's a couple of things that influenced that. I had a very time-sensitive product range. It had a window of opportunity, and I needed to exploit that. And so it wasn't something that was, you know, it wasn't a widget that would potentially always be in somebody's life as a widget. It was very it was seasonal time, but it was very much a craze. And so I wanted to get in, and I wanted to then be able to grow the business into other ranges, into other licenses, so that I had longevity. Because at that time, based upon that line, I didn't have longevity.
Yeah.
So that was my reasoning for doing it, and I don't regret doing it at all. But I look back now, and in hindsight, recognise that potentially there weren't the solid foundations in place. Although the business was the numbers were strong, the business concept was strong. Looking back now, yeah, I probably, hindsight, shouldn't have done it, and should have probably gone down a more wholesome route for investment. Angel investors or that type of thing, but you live and learn, don't you? You live and learn. And I have no pain talking about Love Bomb, because Love Bomb was my graduation, wasn't it? Like, if you think about, I'd been running businesses and they'd experienced really great, phenomenal growth, but Love Bomb Cushions was like nothing else, because it grew overnight. I think my first day's trading, I sold 18,000 pieces.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? Like, that is just unreal, isn't it? 48 hours in, I've got orders for 18,000 pieces. So it's like rare that would ever happen. So yeah, and all the pains associated with manufacturing out the country, because we had to manufacture out the country because we couldn't get the fabric in the UK, because all the looms were over in China because they'd bought them all. So yeah, so it was great. It was great, and it put to test all those wonderful things I learned at eSpark, and it put me to test as a business person. Yeah, so it was good.
Good. Okay, cool. So tell us, we spoke a bit earlier about the fact that now you're running Maple Agency, that you kind of you mentioned that you're writing a book as well, which is a mad thing to do. I think they do say that some people, everyone's got a book inside them somewhere, but mine's like 2 pages and nobody wants to read it, I don't think.
I'm not sure when mine's going to come out. Like, I thought we could be looking at another couple the way I'm going. I'm doing a master's at the minute in business management, so it's trying really hard to juggle the both, but yeah.
So forget when it's going to get published, but with the book in mind, have you got any, what are the kind of, have you got like key themes for this book, and what kind of things what kind of things are we going to want to be able to learn from this, do you think?
No, it's sage advice, isn't it? It's the things that you would only know because you've done it and been there. It's nothing you're taught, and a lot of the stuff that goes in my book is just is managing the feelings. You know, I think there's just not enough done around as a person trying to deal with all the things that come up. Like, we spoke before this about the ebb and flow of business. We're here and we've got clients here, and then we haven't, and then we did. And it's like nothing deals you for those butterflies in your tummy, nothing. And my book's all about kind of like, it is sage advice. It's like the go-to book when you're having a wobble.
Right.
The go-to book when you're needing that direction, that moment. It's that connection that you would. The reason I did it, and I'll be honest with you, is because I do contract work as part of what I do, because I want to work in that community where everybody comes together and feels safe, because I think it's so important. And I work at the University of Huddersfield, I work at the University of York, and I work in their enterprise teams and I work with their enterprise placement year students and all their startup businesses. And the reason I love that, and the reason I'm so passionate about doing that work, is because you get to hold people's hands in critical times when they would perhaps just actually duck out and go, it's too much like hard work, or I don't know what way to go, therefore I might stop. And then my book's about, and what happened was last year we were thrust into this nightmare with the pandemic, and we were trying to work out how we were going to support our students and their businesses so that they kept trading and they kept going and they didn't give up. And the book was born out of that, because we used to go to these I set up these coffee mornings, and all my students would turn up, and then I'd kind of give them like the pearly words, the things you don't find in a book, the moments in time when you kind of start to go, actually, this is what you need, or listen, this is what you should do. And they all used to say it was like therapy. And I thought, actually, what if I did a book of all the things you need to know, but nobody ever tells you?
That sounds good.
About running a business.
Yeah.
It's a startup business, first for a few years. It's a bit like all the things you would need to know as a parent, but you would never become one, so nobody's written that book, right?
Yeah.
That type of thing. But this is good. It's things like, less is more. And the idea being is you turn to, you consult that book when you are feeling a bit lost or in need of that guidance. And instead of paying for a session with me or hitting up one of my workshops, you kind of just open the book and there it is.
Yeah, I think that's useful, because I mean, like a lot of entrepreneurs, and as we had a quick chat with Paul just before we started, I'm always looking for information, and it waves between two things. It waves between the 10 things you need to do to accelerate your business today, which is always shit. It's like, have a blog, and you're going, yeah, or be on social media. You go, well, yeah, that's obvious. And then the other end is the more esoteric vagueness, which is good, but there's never that middle ground. And I think a lot of people are kind of craving that kind of, oh, here's a silver bullet. And I don't think a silver bullet exists for anybody. And I think a lot of it is working on your own kind of mentality, because as we said, even like eSpark the things we did at eSpark, they're not for everybody. The silver bullet stuff is not for everybody. You've seen it all, haven't you? These blogs about invest 10 quid in, I don't know, cryptocurrency and you'll be a millionaire, or whatever else, or drop shipping, or whatever else these people suddenly got this money making thing. It's just not right for everybody. And so it is those kind of common sense, have a good look at yourself. And I don't know, it's that there's a grey area between these kind of two extremes, and I think that's where the juicy bit is. That's where the real advice comes from.
Yeah, and I think I sit in that middle bit, because I think I've been in both of those extremes, and I think that because I've experienced the full array, because I've been doing it for such a long time now, I think what happens then is I recognise the value in the middle area. And the majority of people I work with are doing it for very different reasons. They're doing it because they either want to have a wonderful environmental impact, or they want to have work-life balance, or there's very wholesome reasons and values that they hold, and reasons why they want to operate and run their own companies. And I think that what happens then is that there isn't a lot around in that middle area, because it's very kind of, well, it's not ploddy. I wouldn't say it's ploddy, but it's steady. And we're taught, aren't we? We are taught that steady Eddie isn't safe, or it isn't, extreme enough. And why aren't you trying to do this? And why aren't you trying to get this many followers? Why aren't you doing all this activity? And actually, in the middle of it, there's these really solid, wonderful businesses that I work with that are just honouring their values, honouring their work-life balance, honouring the things that they stand for, and doing really well.
Yeah.
And so I stand for those people really more than anything now. Although I still have that mentality of growth. So I if somebody comes along and they want that advice, I'll always move into that area. But yeah, you're right. And I think more needs to be done in that area of actually it's okay to do your thing and not be massively vocal online, because you're doing your thing and you're doing it well and you're enjoying it and you're making money and it's a solid business and you're employing people, Yeah,
there's that tendency to want to be one of the unicorns, one of the ones that's gone, that hockey stick thing. And that, again, that was the kind of thing that eSpark could always, we'll go for this hockey stick growth. And it's just like, but I don't know if I want that hockey stick growth. And when I've talked to people before and they've said, well, where do you want to take the agency? I want a good agency. I want an agency where I can happily take holidays and it'll run itself. And we've maybe got, 10, 15 people working for us, which would be great and sustainable. I don't want to be Saatchi and Saatchi. I don't want 20,000 people, and I don't want to be buying and doing mergers and acquisitions. That's not what I'm after, because I don't think that's me. I don't think I'd do very well at that. I'm not that kind of high pack, but what I want to do is deliver great marketing and great service to my clients in a sustainable way that makes me happy. I'm not going to be selling my soul to the devil just to make millions of pounds. That's just not me. And I think I said the Do Lectures course that myself and Paul have done, I think gets close to helping those types of businesses. And that was really, what did you think from that, Paul? Just to bring Paul in.
Yeah, I agree, Richard. I think that there's too many kind of almost get rich quick schemes, aren't there? That just, you know, are kind of one end of business advice, and then there's another end which is just a bit too vague. And you know, I don't think anybody can tell you how to run your business. The thing I like about, you know, the do lectures, or just what I'm looking for, is to acquire skills. You know, if you can acquire skills, then you can apply them to the context that you find yourself in, and that's different to being told what to do, which is sometimes what people look for online, is just, you know, tell me what to do and then I'll go and do it, and that just doesn't work.
No,
Yeah.
because nobody really knows your business. We had this conversation before we set off, wasn't it? Nobody knows your business as well as you know your business, and all we can do is offer you advice. And if anybody's pushing you to do something and it doesn't feel comfortable, it's because it doesn't feel comfortable for a very good reason, which is it's not in keeping with your business. And that's the biggest thing I kind of coach on and advise on, is staying true to staying true to your intuition, stay true to who you are and what you you stand for, and don't be swayed. And there is a lot of schemes out there to try and sway you to think that that way is the way, but there is no actual way. It's your way. There are ways to improve, obviously, ways to streamline, to do things better, and that's where someone like, you know, me or other business advisors come in, because we can help look at streamlining things, but only you know your business.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I really enforce that. It's to stay true to who you are and what you want to do and where you're going and your values.
Absolutely. Okay. So what would you say? I'm going to put you on the spot now. If there were, what's that thing? The things you should stop, start, and continue. Are the three things? Are there those things that each business could apply?
Stop, start, continue. What three things? Things within those realms.
Yeah.
Stop worrying what the next person's doing. Okay, that's the biggest thing. Stop looking over your shoulder at what's going on. I spent my first 10 years of business going, and it was because I was out in front. In fact, my husband had a really good conversation at the weekend, because something's about to happen. And my husband went, God, you did that. I'm like, yeah, I did, didn't I? Early adopter syndrome, a visionary, I find it, I'm too quick into it, I'm too soon to do it, and then I can't financially sustain the investment to get to the stage when it's adopted by the masses. Yeah, so whether you're at the front or not, it doesn't really matter where you are in the process. Just focus on where you want to go with your business and don't look over your shoulder, because don't look right, don't look left, just look forward. Because yeah, so stop worrying about what other people do. So that's a stop one. What was the other two?
The start, what should you start doing?
Oh, working on your business. Gosh, how many times have we heard it? And it's so cliche. Just take some time out. Do you know what, as well, one of the things I always say as well, because I'm not one of these business coaches which will say, now you must be at your desk. I'll say, get out outdoors, go out with the family. Some of my most genius moments to work on my business have happened, as Taz will tell you, in Fraserthorpe, in the beach, in the sea, chilling out, relaxing, grounding myself, being with my family, having a drink, just being in that social environment. Because we never really switch off, do we, as entrepreneurs and people, business owners. But some of the greatest moments I've found are by taking that time out. So redefine what working on your business is, for starters. It doesn't mean you're creating a business plan or a strategy document or any of that stuff. It just means you're creating space in your week to reflect. It's a reflective process. And in that reflection, you'll find direction. And that's what a lot of people don't work on. And that's the bit I really value and I hold value. And I do instill that to my clients a lot.
And what about the thing you should continue? And I know this is vague, because that could, well, it depends what business you're, I suppose, but.
Well, it's continue to trade, right? I mean, how many people think they've got to pause, take some off the market, redo it, and then put it back on? And it's like, okay, hang on a second. Is there a way of continuing to trade whilst developing what you're trying to do? I have so many, I mean, you know, these gut reactions that people have. So continue to trade whilst growing, whilst developing. Don't think you've got to do one or the other. So just continue to look for opportunities to create sales. And continue to stay focused on the sale, because I think what a lot of people do as well is they forget that actually the activity, the activity that you undertake in a business ultimately needs to yield a revenue.
Yeah.
Unless you are a very, very different business model. But generally speaking, most people need to yield some sort of revenue stream to continue. But yet they're so focused on planning and so focused on all those other things that they forget that the activity they're doing has to have a purpose. And so continue to find that purpose, continue to look for that sale and continue to trade. But at the same time, balance that with, okay, where are we going? What can we improve on? What can we redevelop? What can we make better? Because it is important. It is important that you continue to look at those things. But yeah, I know lots of businesses that try and bypass the trade bit.
Yeah. I mean, again, reflecting back to eSport, there were lots of businesses who were working on a business, and it's like, well, how are you living? Oh, well, we're not. We've had to sell the house, the car, the whatever, which is kind of, again, that kind of winner's mentality. Oh, I've sold everything to put it into my dream, but then you go, oh, are you? But what about your family? What about?
It's difficult, isn't it? It is difficult balance to have. I've done that. I have sold things. My husband will vouch for that. I mean, it's amazing he's still my husband, to be honest, because I've gambled on the account. It's frightening. I think he's still my husband. He was this morning. But yeah, no, it is a tricky one. I think one of my other stops, am I allowed more than one stop?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Like, lose the perfection script. You know, it just doesn't serve you, because I think that is the barrier to trade. Sometimes we're so focused on making it right and getting it market ready in a what we perceive to be a perfect way, that we forget actually we can do that as we go along, and actually we can just improve the process. And yeah, so that's another one of my stops.
Great. No, those are really useful. I'm sorry that was a bit of a surprise question, but I think that those things are the kind of it's just a really useful thing. It is that thing of you can get caught up in, well, what more are my competitors doing? And I'd say my market with marketing agencies, there are thousands of marketing agencies, and if I try and keep an eye on what they're all doing, I'll send myself insane. So I'm much better off focusing on what I'm doing.
I think it's important, though, she says, it's important to do your competitor analysis, periodically do that, because that is essential. Because we do need to know what the people are doing. We do need to, we know SWOT analysis. We need to know what the strengths, the weaknesses, and the opportunities and threats. I get it, but it's not being so focused on that you then are doing what they do, and you're seeking to be what you need to be.
Yeah.
And it's a very different vibe. But yeah, periodic competitor analysis is healthy, as long as it's from the perspective of to make you improve what you're doing and not compare.
Yeah, absolutely. Fabulous. Okay, so I'm going to open this up a little bit. So Paul, Taz, Amrit, do you have anything that you would like to ask Sarah?
Oh, that horrible silence. Oh God, thank you.
I'll go first then. And I guess I'm just been thinking recently about, so it's kind of just what you said about being in collectibles at this, previously in your career, what your thoughts are on the current kind of NFT and crypto craze in collectibles, and whether you think it's something that of interest.
Oh my God, you know what? It's quite interesting, isn't it? I mean, I don't know a lot about it. I'm not going to lie. I think that every single time I've thought, that'll never work. It's worked. I don't think in this day and age we can rule anything out, can we? We can't rule anything out. I mean, Taz might know more than I do. I'm not kind of, in terms of investment and looking forward and looking at things, I think I'm out the loop in that regard these days. But I do think that every single time I've ever thought to myself, yeah, I'm not sure that'll work, it has. So I think it has to be taken seriously. However crazy it seems or feels, or however bizarre, you sat there going, that just will never work. I think we've proved 10 times over that these things do work. But I think, like anything, you have to do your due diligence, don't you? You have to do your research. I mean, God, that is probably one of the things I say the most these days, and it's so cliche. Do your research, talk to other people, look at what people are thinking about the market, what they're saying about the market before you make any investment. But I have to say, it's not an area of expertise. What about you, Taz? Do you know about it?
I don't know a great deal about it, but I think it's definitely going to be the future. The technology, all the blockchain technology is going to be the way forward. I haven't got my head around it, but I think it's probably the analogy is, if you go about 10, 15 years ago, people were scared to put the credit card details into a website.
Yeah.
This is probably comparable to that, where we've got that fear of the tech, whereas a younger generation is the fearless with it.
I agree. I think that's a really a good thing. What about you, Paul? What's your view on it?
I mean, I think that there's obviously a lot of hype, and people, I certainly wouldn't invest a lot of money in it, because you could lose a lot of money very quickly. I don't know enough about it to do that, but I agree with Taz. I think there's definitely a future. I'm really interested in that, and when people say, but you're not actually buying anything of value, that kind of misses the point, because Beanie Babies didn't have an intrinsic value. They just have the value that somebody else is willing to pay you for. And so this idea of creating digital scarcity on the internet actually could have some really interesting things that we just can't imagine today, I guess.
It's difficult, isn't it? And I think for me, I think there is always a risk as an early adopter, and having been an early adopter so many bloody times, it's frightening, and I've done it again recently and gone, oh, what did I do that for? Because you just do, and you're drawn to it. And I think intuition is everything in business. It's everything, and that's why I say go take some time out and relax, because that'll bring you back into where you need to be, to know instinctively this is where I need to take my business. And so but there is always a danger as an early adopter that you could lose, because we're never quite sure when that thing will take off. So it's a great idea, and the concept's there. Does it need to stabilise more? But inevitably, the entry point, once it stabilises, will be greater, and then you probably would have missed your opportunity. So it's a real, we talk about I always do my scale analysis, it's the weights and balances, isn't it? If you've got money to throw at it, then I'd say, and you're not going to miss it, then I'd say it's probably worth a punt. But if you are going to miss it, then I'd be sat there going, you're going to perhaps just have to understand that if it did take off, you can't kick yourself.
Yeah, I think it's gambling, frankly.
Cheers.
And all the winners will shout about how they won, but the losers won't kind of admit it.
Yeah, there is a reason why there's a lot of very rich people. I mean, I was reading something about Ashton. Is it Ashton Kutcher recently? Pushed it, and he invested in Deliveroo, the original Deliveroo concept, and I think Mila Kunis, his wife, she said he was a nutter, and obviously he's done very well from it. It's that if you can just park it, throw it in it, and not worry about it, which I don't think much of the population can, then it's great, isn't it?
It's one of those things. It's what Ashton Kutcher won't be telling you about is the ones that he chucked money in that died a death. Because you're right, Paul. It's betting. He's done a spread bet, hasn't he? Going, well, I'll put some in here, and he's got all that things, and so many will work, and so many will fall, and you'll never hear the ones that fall. But obviously, you hear about Deliveroos.
And again, it's those get rich quick schemes, isn't it? Yeah. And they do. I know lots of people who made a lot of money and done that. So I'm not even going to. And I've made money myself over the years. I'm not going to say it's not a good thing to do. I just think that in terms of where your life's going, there needs to be more foundation.
Yeah.
And if you can scatter around that, some of those, then one pays off, then bloody fantastic, go for it. Sorry, I swore. Do apologise.
Sorry.
Fantastic, right?
Yeah, great.
Cool. Taz, do you have anything you'd like to ask Sarah?
Be gentle.
Yeah. And we lost you, Taz.
He's in the beach, I told you.
Yeah, he's getting an ice cream, isn't he?
I know. I don't think they do ice creams there, actually. Oh, they do. He'll be in the sea, paddling away.
He will. All right. Well, I think what I'll do is we'll wrap it up there now. But Sarah, thank you so much for your time today. It's been really useful. I always love talking to you. And we'll have to do it again soon. But yeah, today's been really, really good. Thank you very much, and thank you, Paul and Taz, for hanging around. It's been really good. We'll be doing another marketing sandwich course at the end of next month with the business editor of the Yorkshire Post.